Good evening, everyone. Happy Friday. Happy Mental Health Awareness Week as well. Just going to wait for it to populate a little bit. Hopefully get a few people on. So obviously I put it up on my story or on my post the other day that I'm going to be doing my first ever actually Instagram live on my own, actually hosted by myself. Did one a few weeks ago with Jack. Obviously Jack was hosting it, so this is a new one for me, so bear with me, people. Obviously I'll just wait for it to populate a little bit more. But obviously we're going to be joined by Paul in a little bit after I do a little bit of a introduction. So essentially, obviously my background with my mental health is to do with eating disorders, and obviously we're going to invite Paul on in a bit to talk about his story. His is obviously still under the mental health umbrella, but focuses on his depression and the suicide prevention, and obviously like a similar story to me, see about a bad story turned good. So we've been chatting I reached out to him, but it's probably coming up to like 3 or 4 months ago. Just trying to nurture the relationship. We said about doing some work going forward, and this is going to be the first thing that we're going to do together. So let me see if he's ready to jump on. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing, except here he is.
Hello.
Hello, mate. How you doing? All right?
Bernie wants to come on the live for like the first few seconds. Do you want to say hello, mate? No. Hello.
I thought I had my headphones up. My headphones aren't connected, so 2 secs. Unprofessional. Unprofessional.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Yeah, I'm just waiting for my technology. I thought it would be easier having headphones in. I'd be able to hear everyone better, but I don't think it's working.
I can hear you. I can hear you. Okay. Can you hear me? What's going on? James, you crashed. James?
Is that better? Oh, I forgot. Are we here? 2 secs. What a nightmare. Right. It's not working. My headphones aren't working, so.
Can you hear me?
Chuck them in the bin. Right. Can you hear me right now?
I can. Can you hear me?
Oh, wait, they are working. God. What a joke. Can you hear me now? All right.
Hear me?
Yeah. Right. They're not working again. Right. So, right. Scrap that. How you doing, mate? You're right.
Yeah, not bad. How are you? You okay?
Yeah. Yeah, right. Not too bad. Bit of a
hello, mate.
Bit of a technical malfunction.
Say hello for the last few seconds. He just wants to make an appearance.
That's class. Get all the dog lovers in. Get more people watching.
How's your day, buddy? You all right?
Yeah. It's going really well. Well, it's gone really well. It's been it was an early start. I was in Sheffield like this morning for a morning client, so I was up at like 3:30. Yeah. So a bedtime soon. But I've done my second day talking at a school in Halifax this week. Obviously sharing my story and trying to like inspire other people. Obviously, just about like no matter what you go through, it kind of doesn't define who you are, and it doesn't mean that this is you for the rest of your life. Obviously, if you can be like self-aware and you know that you need to make changes and implement them changes, then yeah, like you said, like the world, without sounding cliche, the world is your oyster. You can still do the things you want to do. It doesn't really. It may take a chapter of your life away, but you still got the whole book to write. So
yeah, absolutely. How did it go this morning?
Yeah, no, it's really good. It's like I had this chat with my dad, obviously, and my fiance, that when it got like, agreed to do it, I'm thinking like 30, 40 kids. I'm thinking it's like a school, like a class full of kids, but it's not. It was the whole year,
Wow.
so it's been like 330 kids, like for 2 days in a row. So it's just like yeah, it was like when I was like, oh, just like, how many people is it for? She was like, do you really want to know? It's like, yeah. It's like 330. I was like,
That's
Christ. Like, what was that?
that's incredible. That's insane.
Yeah, no, what I say, it kind of like I think it, like I was I was saying, I was not. It's like good nerves, and I think obviously you know what it's like being like the public speaker that you are, in terms of like you're not learning a, you're not obviously my background's been in sales, so it's like whatever job I was doing, you're always learning the sales scripts, and you're always learning like what kind of rebuttal to deal with and how do you go about that. And obviously then when you're in an environment with with loads of people, you can become a bit like frazzled and sweat. And I was like, but because it's your story, it's like there's not there's not that fear, like because I've lived it and I know what I'm saying, because it's in here and it's like head of my heart. It's like it feels different, and it's like good nerves. It's like this good, like it's this like what I the opportunity I've been given. I know it's like it's really good for other people, and it's really good for me as well. It's like therapy for yourself, isn't it? When you have other people that are listening and you can see that they're like engaged by what you're saying, it kind of like I think I've said it before, and I don't know if you have the same sort of thing, that like if you've lived with your issues and you spoke about it so many times that it's almost like the message becomes a little bit dilute for you. It doesn't really have that impact because you've said it so many times that it's not that you've detached yourself from the emotions and stuff, but you've dealt with the trauma and you've dealt with the issues, and you've moved on from it. But it's obviously people that are hearing it for the first time, it kind of re-emphasizes like you have been through something that people deem so like traumatic, and the fact that you've come out the other side and you're like living breathing proof that no matter how crap things get, you can come out the other side. It's like people that are in that state of mind that we were however many years ago, like it gives them that sense of hope. And I think it's like I didn't really realize how important like the sharing the story was when I first got into like personal training and like my own personal like fitness journey. Like I didn't realize that sharing the story is having that lived shared experience is vital, because you are basically the middle ground between someone seeking like professional help, which obviously it's person dependent, and obviously the cases are on an independent basis, that some people do need like therapy and intense therapy, and they need that control almost like taken away from them because they do need like intense help. But obviously, some people then don't like to talk to a doctor because they feel they're going to be judged, and it's pressured, and it's like you're sitting there and he's got like clipboard, and like you're talking to him like you're pouring your heart out, and he's like sitting there just like, like it's kind of like this like standoffish approach. I think obviously like being able to speak to someone that has been through it, come out the other side, and has kind of like had they've shifted their mindset and they've implemented positive steps to get them out of that mindset. It's just like I think that's what people are craving at the moment.
Yeah,
So
and when you touched on about nerves and having that passion and I guess vulnerability, James, I think that really is key for an audience, because when I started out doing speaking, I was like very much like analysing it, trying to be as professional as I can be,
yeah,
having slides on the back, and trying to make it as engaging as possible. But what I was finding is that, hang on, let's just talk about my experiences from the heart. Let's show that vulnerability. Let's show that passion, nerves,
yeah,
experiences. And that for me, with the talks that I've done and sharing my awareness, is that's more relatable. That's actually, key for the audience to really relate, but also appreciate, because you know, I'm not somebody that's an expert on speaking, but I just speak from experience.
Yeah.
And I'm just someone that, you know, wants to be naturally relatable, and, you know, going through depression, going through anxiety, and you know, suicide and attempts in my life, you know, having those conversations with people, an audience, and even in one-to-one after the talks, people may want to stay
Yeah.
and do a one-to-one. It's just crucial to share the story. And I always remember, James, being in school and having the firemen coming in and the policemen coming in, sharing their real life experiences. And I remember just being so engaged with it, knowing that this is like real stuff going on. And it's no different with mental health, and it's no different with, you know, the audiences that I've talked with, that they actually want to engage, they want to ask questions. And that's what I love the most, actually, is
Yeah.
when the audience want to ask questions and raise their arm. And for me, that's made my day, you know, knowing that it's planted a seed, you know.
Yeah, I think if you've been able to tell your story in a way that you've engaged them that much that they're either curious or they're either trying to gain some hints and tips if they're going through like similar things, I think that's when you know you've captured your audience, I guess, isn't it? And I guess you said about showing the vulnerability is probably what sets you apart from like the person that's polished, that's slick, that's given a sales pitch or given a seminar. It's obviously it's a completely different. It may be like in the same venue, but it's on a completely different level. Because you're not trying to sell them a product or sell them a service. It's literally about talking about your own life, your experiences, like how bad things got. I think like the rawer you are, and you're always going to like cock up and make a mistake and whatever. And I think again that having that like you said, like that vulnerability, I think people would warm to you far more. And I think like if they can be like, oh, he's just like he's been through all this, but he's a normal guy. He's a normal guy. And I think like that's where it's not that doctor patient relationship. It's like I say down the pub, I don't drink, but it's like when you're talking to a mate at football, and it's like that sort of like relationship whereby you're just having a chat with a mate, and it's light-hearted, but there's a serious like conversation to it, but it's not in a way that it's formal and whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, you know, trying to make it engaging, trying to make it relatable, trying to make the conversation streetwise, and even chuck in some, you know, a little bit of banter in a good way to try and an audience, to try and have that laughter or that icebreaker. Because I think that's key, having that icebreaker and knowing that you're not overly serious, you know, you are sharing, you're sharing some laughter. And I've found with, you know, sharing a story on, you know, if it's a football joke or, you know, some kind of banter, it actually just starts a conversation. And when I set up a charity previously for men mental health, and one of the key objectives for me was to arrange walk and talks and football tournaments and football matches, because playing football and having that social interaction was an absolute icebreaker. It was just, you know, having that engagement, just like kicking a football, having a chat with the lads, changing rooms, down the pub afterwards. But that strikes the conversation, and it just takes that, you know, icebreaker to, you know, even if it's to say like, are you really okay? You know, they may drop something like they don't socialise, or they don't, or they're not acting themselves. And it's about encouraging a conversation, but encouraging support and encouraging a friendly ear with no judgment. And, you know, making that environment key, if it is a, you know, a football match, if it is a walk and talk, if it's a pub or whatever, it's just crucial. And, you know, as you know, James, for men especially, it's a massive stigma. And it's just, you know, it's just trying to break that stigma of men mental health especially. And, you know, the likes of me and you doing what we do, it helps a lot of people, but we've got a long way, you know.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think in terms of if you're in an environment where you're surrounded by other guys, and you hear other guys talking about their story, or like if you're leading it and someone's coming up to you and talking and someone's listening in, it's almost like you said, it's like that icebreaker whereby, oh, if he's doing it, like, and if he's telling his story, like I'll I'll share mine, and then it's like a domino effect. And like you said, I think it's like it's taken. I think men and women are completely different. Like women are far more open with their girlfriends and in their social circles, whereby if they are struggling, they seem to just like they'll happily talk about it. And obviously, like guys, it's like the old stereotypical like British stiff upper lip and like I'll be all right. Like I'm the head of the household, and
Right.
if I yeah if I'm deemed if I speak out because I'm struggling with this, then I'm weak and I'm not a man. And I think like we need to have that shift in the mindset, as in like, and I know people say it, and again, it's going to sound like a bit of a cliche, but it's like talking about your problems. You're far stronger than bottling it up, because you bottling it up, it's just a pressure cooker, and you'll end up doing something that you don't want to do, but you just feel that there's no other avenue to go down, because men usually only reach out when it's beyond breaking point and they're almost too far gone. And like you said, you get into that mindset, and obviously it's been like 7 or 8 years since I've been I say on the road to recovery, because that's probably a topic we can talk about in a bit in regards to like, are you ever really recovered? But I think like when you it's only through talking with my parents, and with talking with other people that were in that kind of environment with me when I was at my worst, it kind of jogs my memory and it takes me back into that place. I think it seems like such a world ago that you were in that dark place, that it almost feels like since you've recovered, or since you've been on the road to recovery, that you're almost like reborn, and you've almost become this completely different person. And I think it's like that's where the going back and talking about it, it's like it's almost like a constant reminder of how far you've actually come with everything. And it's yeah, I think like I think being delivering the talks, and then when you've got people asking you questions, and then it makes you think. Like I've done like the podcasting, and I'm hoping to go down obviously like the mental health like speaking route. But I know there's been like a few times I've been on a podcast with people, and they've asked me questions, and it's like, Christ, that's deep. Like it proper makes you like think about, like it almost like it takes you back, and it makes you think about the situation you're in. And it's like, I've never been asked that before. And it's like, oh, I didn't mean to like trigger you. I was like, no, you haven't triggered me. It's just like a question that like the therapist never asked, and whatever. And I think it's just like having that, I don't know, it's like going back and thinking about like the time that you're in. I think it's important to know what your life was like, because then you appreciate how far you have come. And I think it's something that I talk about a lot in regards to like I think the three skills I think that I've learned from when I set out on this road to recovery is the self-awareness and self-reflection. I think there always comes a point where life's going to screw with you, and it's going to mess with your head, and you're going to think about like, Christ, I don't feel right. And then you end up having this like reflection time where you're like, right, okay, like I'm here. Think about where I was 10 years ago. Like, these things are they really bad? And it's kind of like you kind of go back and feel like, well, no, it's not as bad as I initially think. And it's like that. I wish I could bottle that skill, and being able to well, give it to people. I won't say it to people, but to be able to like empower someone to have that ability of self-reflection, whereby, and it's not trying to belittle them in any way, but it's like the feeling that you sit with isn't actually as bad as the issue actually is. It's like the thought of it is always worse than the actual like issue itself. And it's like to actually take that time to sit with it and be like, right, is it really that bad? Like, where have I been? Where have I come from? What have I learned? It's like, and then is it really? It's not really that bad actually. Right, okay, what can I do? I'll do that, do this, do that. It's like that, having that internal like dialogue with yourself. I think it's been an important skill for myself and like my journey. And I think the other one is obviously like having the positive outlook, and like the rewarding yourself, and having that self love. And I know from an outside point of view, it can be seen as like you're arrogant, and you love yourself, and you have an ego, and it's like, yeah, I really don't. Like, I know that like my parents are proud of me from my recovery. Like, I'm proud of me from my recovery, and I don't want to forget that. And I think like there'll come a point where you end up just like, I'm actually really fucking proud of where how bad things were to where they are now. And it's like giving yourself a pat on the back, because if you don't do it, no one else is going to do it.
Yeah.
And then the other skill is resilience. I think being able to recover from that point, like things are always going to come back and test you, whether that be, I always say, like a bereavement. You've lost your job. Obviously, like the lockdown thing was a massive upheaval for people. And it's like, and if you haven't learned like the skill set along your recovery, then things are going to happen along the way that you're not going to be able to. You're going to just be constantly going up and down. It's like if you build resilience and you build like these set of skills or coping mechanisms that, like, when the world does screw with you, you've got things that you can put in place, and it may knock you for six, but it doesn't knock you all the way down. You have that ability to dig yourself out of that hole again. Obviously it has to be you. Like, you can have a support network around you, but at the end of the day, like, people can tell you to do stuff, but if you don't want to do it, and you don't feel that you can do it, you're not going to do it. So it's about having that resilience to be able to do it. So yeah, I think there's like I think like obviously what we're doing up, we're like small fish really in a massive pond. It's like, but I guess it takes people to be able to speak about things, and other people can be like, oh, I want to do that. I'll if they can do it, I can do it. And then it's like you want it to just snowball essentially. So
What you said earlier, James, and it really hit home actually about giving back, but having sort of, what's the word? I don't know, just having that energy to know that you're making a difference to someone else's life, if it's via a talk, with the job I do, and the balance of life with the stress that I don't really have now. But working with clients, giving back, knowing that's therapy in itself, in giving any awareness and giving any tools in the locker to work with themselves is absolute key for me. And I'm all about gratitude. I'm all about gratitude every day. I wake up, I make my bed, I make sure my bed is pristine. I look in that mirror and I think, you know what, you've survived another day. You've made it. You're not who you was before. And I always give myself three sort of tasks for the day at the end of the day. What have I done to make myself happy? What have I done to make someone else happy? And what have I learned today? And every day I'll do that, James, every day. And it's just my gratitude like techniques that I use personally. And I just have a moment. I have a moment for about half an hour. I just sit there in the garden, have the radio on, just have that nice sort of environment where it's peaceful.
Yeah.
And just reflect on how far I've come on that day, but also where I was before. So I can relate to what you're saying about having that sort of awareness on where you were before and where you are now. I think it's really important. I think sometimes we can forget, but also we can purposely, and not in a bad way, but we can be in a position to ignore what went on in the past because maybe we've got. But at the moment you deal with stuff, and the moment that you've put a lid on it is the moment that you can actually dive into it when you need to. And I do. I go back into like the inner child that we all have. I've got that inner child where I'm sort of nourishing every day. And if there's a moment of a trigger, if it's, a smell, or if it's a situation, I'm like, right, let's sit down, let's deal with the inner child, let's do some reflection. And it's all about having those tools in place, really. And, to give that back to people, if it's talks or with clients, is for me therapy. And when you touched on that earlier about back and having that sort of therapy with people to have that boost, knowing that you've helped someone, is just, you can't buy that, James, can you?
No, definitely not. And I know that it was something that my dad was a bit worried in the back of his mind in regards to, like, obviously the pressure I put myself under with my eating disorder, and then obviously I'm going to be working with other people, and almost they're going to be unburdening their problems like onto me. And it was like, my dad was obviously worried that it could be potential to not so much relapse, but obviously you're carrying all this like woe around with you. But I think like exactly like you said, like I don't take on their problems per se. Like I listen, I try and relate relate to it as much as I can, and in many cases I can, whether that be that they haven't had an eating disorder, but they've had issues with like anxiety or depression. There are a lot of similarities in regards to like the traits that are involved, and I think like if you can relate to someone, and then you can almost speak to them in a way that, like you said, you're trying to educate them, and like not in a I'm better than you kind of way, but it's also you're trying to empower them, the principles that you learn. And I think like that's like, I don't take on their burden, I try and action upon it and give them like hints and tips and ways that they can look at their life in a slightly different way, or trying to like process things in a different way. And again, there are so many different like things it could be. Like I probably sound like the liver king with his like testaments, but I've got like 7 pillars that I swear by. And also I'm in the process of producing this 8-week plan, for like an online plan that involves like 20-30 minute video every week, and then like a one-to-one with me to go through what you've learned. And
Yeah.
you give them, I say give them homework, but obviously you're giving them like tasks to look at that specific area. And it's obviously that it's like understanding you understanding what mental health is, understanding the factors influencing it. You're looking at your mindset, your nutrition. Obviously food plays a big part in how you're feeling. Obviously the exercise as well, like what you're doing. And it's not like going to the gym, bodybuilding, it's just exercise, like what you're doing throughout the day that's getting you up and walking and improving your mobility, your flexibility. And obviously at this moment in time with the sun out and that, getting your daily dose of vitamin D instead of being locked like by your office, or in your office or by a desk all day. Obviously that's not doing you any good. And then it's looking at your relationship with your friends and family, so like your social circle. I think that's a massive one that isn't really like spoken about a lot. And then the final one is the relationship with yourself. Like how do you, obviously mindset and the relationship with yourself, there's similarities, but obviously it's mindset is what you're thinking. Obviously like, relationship with yourself is how do you see yourself? Like do you see yourself as like, are you open and honest with yourself that you have an issue, or are you still at that level whereby you are in a nice possible form, like that sense of denial that I'm fine, like yeah I may have got this but I can stop whenever I want. And obviously like we both know that it's someone that says that you know that they're not at that level to action upon any advice that they get. But yeah, I think it's obviously like being able to help people. I think it's not, I don't take on their burden. It's just about trying to help like eradicate it within their own lives. And I think obviously it's a big thing. Like my biggest thing is obviously I had my eating disorder for 10 years. And I think if someone's going through the same stuff that I've done, if I can help them in any way reduce that time, then that's like pretty much my job done. I don't want them to have to go through like 10 years of, well, obviously when they're in that mindset, they don't really think that they're in a problem. But when you're out the other side and you realize just how bad my life was, and it's probably only been in the last like few years that I've really even like recognized that it wasn't just me. Like I'm going to be, obviously like the podcast, and I'm going to be getting into that, and my first guest is going to be my dad. And I think like it's going to be like incredibly emotional. There's going to be tears aplenty, I'm sure. But it's obviously like I had the eating disorder for 10 years, but it wasn't just me, it was my parents as well. So it's like looking at it from their point of view, like how bad did they feel, like in terms of like was there guilt, was there regret, did they blame themselves? And I think again being able to educate other people and educate and empower them that there is like, no matter how bad like the person gets, it's their whole circle that suffers as well. And I think it's an important aspect to think about. And it's difficult for the person that's going through the mental health problem themselves, because like it makes you numb to everything. You don't think about other people, you don't take other people's opinions into account, because it's you. And it's not that you become like a selfish twat, it's because you obviously it was my eating disorder, like it consumes you and it strips you away from everything, to the point where you have nothing apart from that, like apart from like my eating disorder. That's why I had this, like if I get rid of it, like what have I got? I've got no identity, I don't have friends, I have like my relationship with my family is shocking, like I'm not working. So if I get rid of my eating disorder, I'm just a shell. Like it was like Stockholm syndrome was the easiest way to put it. I felt like like it's bad for me having the eating disorder, but it's the only thing I've got, so I'll just stick with it. And obviously that was like, yeah, no matter what happened to me along that way, I could not shift that. That it was like my comfort. It was my comfort, but it was the one thing that was killing me as well. So it was obviously just yeah, like horrendous time for me. But obviously, again, being able to share that story from a parent's point of view of their child that's got it, I think that'd be like a powerful story to tell, or a version of the story to tell.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know a lot about what you went through, James, with the eating disorder, but what made you change the way? What made you change your lifestyle? What made you realise there was an issue?
Um, I think like essentially like my eating disorder started when I was 17. So from the age of it was from the age of like 16 to 17, I went through there was like three traumatic life events really. Like I got let go from playing football. I used to play for Charlton Athletic as a goalkeeper when I was younger, and it was kind of mapped out that I was going to be like a goalkeeper, like professional footballer. Obviously, that's what you get told, and at the age of I think it was just before I turned 17. Obviously, that's what I think it was that. It was obviously that I wasn't I wasn't signed on. I didn't sign like a contract with them. So it was like this near enough like 10 years of going to training and playing football and was just ended. And also like we're talking we're like 15 or over 15 years ago, 15, 16 years ago. So again, like mental health there was no such thing as mental health like 16 years ago. It was like, you ain't good enough, deal with it.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
as much.
Yeah. And it was like, it was like it was kind of this thing that I don't really think I don't think I really dwelt on it, but it obviously sat in my subconscious. And then fast forward to like my first year of A levels, I cocked up my A levels. Although I went to a grammar school, I was always like lower. I always struggled academically. I was more sporty, social. So I wasn't allowed to carry on doing business studies. I wasn't allowed to retake the year, so I had to leave because it was drummed into me to go to university as a kid. So I had to leave like my social circle of friends that I knew since I started going there. So like from the age of 11 to 17, so like 6 years, and obviously seeing them every day, and then the thought of only seeing them like once a week on a night out when you're not really interacting as much with them, that was like a big hit for me. And then when I started college, my nan, who lived in London at the time, like sold a house to come and live with us. We were having an extension built, and then she got diagnosed with cancer, and she passed away within like 3 months. And obviously, like when she was diagnosed, it was obviously it was terminal. So it was like palliative care. So she was sent home, and obviously we had Macmillan nurses like looking after her. But obviously to see her at home, and I was only at college like part time, so it was like to see her deteriorate on a. It wasn't even weekly. It was also almost like a daily basis or an hourly basis. It just fucked with my head. It was like I'm not good enough for football. I'm not good enough for my friends, or I'm not good enough for school. So like I'm not good enough footballer. I'm not clever enough. I'm not good enough to be with my friends anymore. And I can't even help my nan. And it was like all them things. It just manifested itself into an eating disorder. Like I didn't know what it was. I didn't research it and go, oh, I like the sound of that. Like there was no one in my family that had it. And I just started to run. I just started running, and I'm guessing it was just a way of trying to run away from my problems. And it just become this addiction. I started running, and then I stopped. I cut back on what I was eating, and I think by that time it was probably like I'm 17, 18. I was like I was a late bloomer in terms of like puberty, so I started to get taller as well. So I naturally leaned out, but then obviously I was running and not eating a lot. And then when I was meeting up with my friends on like weekends, they're like, "Oh, you're looking well, mate." And it was just like they didn't know what was going on. They just saw me as in like, "Oh, you've got taller, you've slimmed down, you're looking well." Like positive reinforcement for something that was really negative. Just made me carry on doing it. And obviously, I took it to the extreme whereby I went from being like healthy looking to, oh mate, like you need a few McDonald's. Again, just the chat that you have, like the banter. Obviously, people don't know what's going on, so they're just like they don't mean any harm by it. And then yeah, I had that. I had anorexia for about 18 months, and then it like changed to bulimia. It was just this the restriction that I had for so long. Like I was so hungry all day, and it's like I just refused to eat. And if I felt hungry, I'd punish myself by running more. And it just got to that point where I rebelled against doing that. So it was like I ate everything in sight, and then I just didn't keep it down. So it was like this: I crave food. The moment it passed my lips, I had to get rid of it. And it was like the anorexia was bad, obviously, like bad for me physically, but the bulimia took it to like a whole new level. Like I don't know whether it's never been like diagnosed, but I'm like an all or nothing person. So whether that's like an obsessive personality, like if I like something, I'll do it. I'm all in or I'm all out. And obviously when it's something as divisive as an eating disorder, I became a pro in the worst possible way. I became a pro at it. And I feel like we were trying to work out how many times a day I used to make myself sick, and we said it was probably easily like 50 times a day. So you can imagine what that effect had on my body. If I got up in the middle of the night to go for it to the toilet, if I got up too quick, I'd pass out, literally, and I'd wake up on there were times when I woke up on my bedroom floor. There were times I woke up on the bathroom floor, and obviously my parents were asleep, so it's like out of sight, out of mind. I ain't going to tell them. I don't want them to know how bad things got. But then there was times when I'd pass out in front of them. And then like in and out of hospital, like my potassium and my phosphate levels were like dangerously low. And at 21, my parents had to sign a do not resuscitate form. I was in like a high risk of going into cardiac arrest. And like my potassium levels were that low that they wouldn't have even tried to revive me. And you'd think, I'm not going to say normal because I don't want to like trigger anyone, but you think like if someone's told that, like, sort your shit out or you're going to die, that would be like someone's got a bullet to your head and be like, change. No, like, no. I still had it for 6 years after that. Obviously, I went into an eating disorder unit after coming out of hospital for the last time I was in, and maybe about 23, I learned how to eat again, basically, and it was like the eating little and often. Obviously, I hated the idea of feeling full. That feeling of obviously, like in my head, I'm thinking whatever I eat, I'm going to feel full, but it wasn't. It was just like the habit and routine that I got in, where I was spending like 50, £60 a day on food to binge on. You can imagine, like, I wasn't just eating like a pizza and making myself sick. I was eating like 5 pizzas at a time, to the point where my stomach was so like distended. And then I'd spend like 20 minutes in the toilet. But obviously, what going in the eating disorder unit was it was the catalyst to change. I think being able to the eating disorder, it's all about control. It's all about being in charge of what I eat or what I don't want to eat or what I want to binge on. And it was like that was taken away from me, and I think I needed that. I needed someone to be like, you're not in control anymore. Like, you're going to eat this, you're going to sit there, you're going to do that. And obviously, anyone that's got an addiction being told they can't do what they've done for 6, 7, 8 years, there's this constant like clashing, and I hated everyone there. And but in reality, it was exactly what I needed. I think that 3 or 4 month period that I was in there, it kind of started to make me realize, or make me think. I think my brain just started working again. I was fueling myself with more food, and it was just like I had this, not epiphany, but it was like this realization that I'm actually ill. Like, I'm actually got something wrong, and I need to change, but I've not got a fucking clue what to do, because I was so used to this, my world. It was my world. It was my way. And it's like the rose tinted glasses, or the whatever what was taken off, and it was just like, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to change? Like, and then there was this like to and fro, and it's like, I want to change, I need to change, but without the eating disorder, I'm nothing. Like I had this, like, it was my comfort. It was my comfort thing because it was the only thing that I actually had a relationship with at the time. Like I spent obviously like 10 years at home doing nothing, not working, no friends. Like relationship with my parents was toxic, due to my own selfish behaviour. Um, and then obviously my dad being like the superstar that he is was just like whatever help you need, whatever things you want to try, like we'll try. So I saw a hypnotist. It worked, but then it didn't work. Obviously, it was just this like again. I think it was the control thing to know that someone else is tapping into this. Like this is mine. Like bugger off. Like you're not getting in. And then I saw like a sports psychologist. So very different to a therapist and counselling that I had. Like the sports psychologist guy who'd worked with Gillingham Football Club and the England cricket team. It was very much like instead of trying to figure out what the exact root cause of it was and when we're pinpointing exactly where it started, it was like, yeah, you've got an eating disorder. What are you going to do to get rid of it? What are you going to do to change the habits that you're in? And it was like there was the one thing that he said to me, and I've mentioned it on another podcast. It was like this golden nugget of information, and it was like whatever your goal is in life, whatever you want to achieve, is what you're about to do gonna get you closer to it or take you further away. And it sounds like such a flippant. He probably didn't even mean to have the impact that it had on me. But it was just like this. Fucking hell, that makes sense. Like if I want to be able to get back to work and have friends and have a relationship, is that binge that I'm planning on doing like going to help me? No, it's not. It's just going to lead to another cycle of self-sabotage for another week, another month, another year. So yeah, and it was kind of like the way that I recovered was almost like a smoker. It was like a smoker that went from 40 a day to 20 a day to 10 a day to 5 a day. Like my binges just slowly reduced, and it was like the time that I had to binge. It was about condensing or filling up my day with constructive stuff. So like boredom was the killer. Boredom, obviously, the eating disorder strips away everything. So you don't have hobbies, you don't have a personality, and it leaves you with all this time. And it's the time that makes you want to eat and then make yourself sick. So it was obviously like trying to get a job, trying to get back into work, and obviously that's what I did. And then I took a job up in Sheffield, and then I met a girl, and a first person that really showed me attention for a decade, and like latched onto that, and then that didn't work out. And I think being with her and sharing my life with her was kind of like a big thing for me, with it being so secretive and isolating myself from everyone. To be able to share my life with this person, she had elevated me to a level whereby when she said she didn't want to be with me anymore, I didn't think. I was like, what am I going to do? I'm going to go to gym. I had this macho image that we spoke about earlier, that I don't look like a man. I don't look like I can protect her. So if I go to the gym and I get a little bit bigger, she's going to want me back. And it was like I set out on this journey of like, it was like an ego thing. Like if I look bigger, I'm going to be more attractive to her, and she will want me back. And so I quit my job, which my dad hated me for. Why are you quitting your job? It's like, just I'm gonna commit my time to the gym. I'm gonna try and get big. And I did. Within the space of like 18 months, I put on 5.5 stone. From going to the gym and like actually eating properly and eating almost like a bodybuilder, like chicken, broccoli, rice every day. And I tracked my journey on Instagram, and obviously that's how I got like a following, and it led to like getting into like modeling and extra work and acting and doing work with people that I never ever thought I'd ever work with before. And it's kind of like I've never been a religious or spiritual person, but I do believe that if you make positive changes in your life, the universe does reward you with something, whether that's someone sees what you're doing and wants to give you a break and opens up their network to you, or I don't know. I never planned my life to go this way, but I'm so glad it did. Like, I don't regret having the eating disorder. I think what I learned along the way about myself, and not more importantly, but about other people. It's made me who I am today, and I don't think I'd change that, because I think I wouldn't have that meaningfulness of life. I think, like you said, about having that time when you appreciate your day and what you've achieved. And like I probably don't do that daily, but there are definitely times when I'll reach a point of like self-reflection where I'm just like, my life could have been so much fucking worse had I not have changed. Like, there's no way I'd still be here today, because something would have, my body would have given up a long time ago had I not have changed. And it's like, it's not that I'm on borrowed time. It's just the fact that I've been given like a second chance, and I don't want people to go through the same shit that I did. And it's like, if I can tell them how bad my story was and then see what I'm like now, like, if I can do it, they can do it, and I'll help as much as I can. And like you said, it's like this. It's like Pay It Forward. That film, Pay It Forward. I think it's like, if you help someone, like I had people from the NHS help me, and like the sports psychologist helped me, and my parents being like the amazing support network that I had, like they've helped me. So I need to help other people now. Now I've got myself sorted. I want to help other people, and then if I've helped someone, they'll help someone. And then he said, then like the mental health, like the tree starts to grow, and it has branches, and then all of a sudden everyone's talking about it and everyone's helping, and suddenly the stigma can fuck off, because it's just like being able to tell your story and get people like inspired that like the world can be fucking shit. It really can. But it's like, if you have your own coping mechanisms, and you learn along the way to be able to deal with life, and then you can package that up and help other people, like life ain't that bad. I think it's like a bad story like turned good. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that, mate. And you know, I speak for people watching this now and later on in the week. It was inspiring listening to you, mate.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. And when you say about using your bad experiences into a positive and not changing what you went through, I'm very much like that myself. I went through a lot with depression, anxiety. My mental health with, you know, depression started when I was a kid, when I was 5, 6 years old. And it sort of lived with me until I had a major breakdown at the age of 32, where I thought things were okay. I was still getting triggers in life with relationships, with employment, with being in the changing rooms at football. I was always perceived myself to be the black cloud. You know, I'm always the odd one out. You know,
Yeah.
never really dealt with stuff, and you know, only took that breakdown to be in that position where, you know, when I wanted to take my own life and things got really on top, it shouldn't have got to that position, but it had to be in that position because I started to get the help. I started to have a professional guidance on why I was having these triggers, why I was having these moments. But being in this position now to give back and being in a position to be stable and be comfortable in my own skin and whatever, you know, I will never ever change what happened to me, because it's molded me into the person today to be positive, to be in control. A lot of my friends are married. They're married, they're settled, they're scattered all over the country. But for me, that's really comfortable because I don't need to see my friends every day. I don't need to be surrounded by people every day because I'm really comfortable in my own skin.
Yeah.
That was never before, James. It was always, right, I need to be down the pub with my mates. I need to be speaking to Bob at the bar, or I need to be, you know, somewhere where there's people around. And I'm like, you know, I shouldn't have to be forcing effort to be around people. And when I started to realise, I started to get a grasp of myself and my strengths and weaknesses, I started to realise that actually, you know, I can work on this. I can work on the struggles that I was facing, and yeah, I can go all week without seeing anyone physically. And I know it sounds really hard, but I'm very comfortable with that. So a lot of my clients are Zoom based, and you know, for me, being on my own, seeing my friends when I need to see them, and I've got a good support network, but
Yeah.
I leave it where it is, you know, and it's got me to the age of 41, 42 to be in that position, but I would never change what happened. The struggles I had, the challenges that I faced, the thoughts I had, the moment, anger, the confusion, all those situations that I faced. I know why I did what I did. I know why I was in that position, and the fact that I can leave it where it is and go back into it when I need to is a sign of you know, of closure,
Yeah.
really. And,
Yeah.
having that self-acceptance, and like I said earlier, just looking myself in the mirror, James, I know it's not arrogant doing it, looking at myself in that mirror every day to say that you survived another day, you're here,
Yeah.
you know, you're a good person, you know, you're going to be okay. And I give myself a pat on the back, I give myself gratitude, I give myself pride, and you know, I give myself praise, because, you know, I think sometimes in life, the people that I come across, and, you know, with a job, and you can relate as well, is that there is so many people that don't give themselves enough credit or praise.
Right.
And that's so crucial, because, you know, we're all survivors, and we're all strong. We just need to find that balance in life. And for me, it's never too late. It took me to the age of, well, even today, you know, I'm not perfect. I'm still having triggers. I'm still having, you know, stuff going on, but it's controllable. But it's never too late. And if I can do it, you can do it. And that's always my motto. And I never make my past, my experiences, an excuse. If there's a bad day, if there's something looming, if there's a trigger, if it's a milestone, i.e. Christmas, Father's Day, then I have tools in place to actually, you know what, I'm going to do something. I'm going to keep myself busy.
Yeah.
I'm going to take myself to a safe haven. I'm going to take the dog out. I'm going to
Yeah.
do something rather than stew on it and bottle things up at home, which is quite easy to do. It's actually have initiative to actually have that self-motivation, to have that self-awareness, and just get out and just keep myself motivated physically, mentally. It's funny when you say about exercise and, you know, balancing life with dieting and stuff like that. I'm literally in the last few weeks, probably in the last 6-7 weeks, I've changed my diet. I've bought an air fryer. I've bought decent food. I've got a nice balance with food, but also the physical exercise is absolutely crucial. And I'm out every day for walks. And I know with
Yeah.
the sun being out, and, you know, having those brighter days and evenings is an extra motivator. But just having that routine and just going out your comfort zone a little bit, getting in that routine and being out every day, even if it's for a 20-minute walk, it's
Yeah.
absolutely key. And I honestly, James, in the last probably 2 or 3 weeks since I've been on this journey in changing my physical well-being, it's been a massive plus. And, you know, just cutting out crap food, just having that physical exercise, just having a bit more self-care within myself it's just put me up to another level again, really.
Yeah.
And that's, again, even though I do the coaching, the life coaching, and I encourage the mindset and the confidence, now that I'm learning a lot more about my physical attributes and what's really good physically wise, I'm introducing that to my clients as well, you know.
Yeah. I said that I think there's been like there's so many studies out there in regards to as I say, it's just exercise as a whole, and obviously that can be anything. It can be any hobby, any sport that you want to do. And it's like I when I was more into the obviously like the personal training before I relaunched and used my niche. Obviously, it's very my story is obviously is quite unique, and I wasn't really utilizing that as a superpower. That's going to be the easiest way that I can put it. And I think people say about like what is the best form of cardio to do? I was like, the one you fucking like. Like if you don't like getting on a bike, don't get on a bike. If a previous like PT or someone's told you or your mate it was like I want to be like Lance Armstrong, but you don't like it, don't do it, because you're going to do it for like 3 months. You're going to become sick and tired of it. It's become an absolute ball ache, and then you're gonna just bugger it off, and then you're gonna be worse. It's like this. You're gonna feel like a failure within yourself. So it's just like it sounds easy. It does sound easy because obviously, like, you were implementing it, I implement it like daily as well. But it's like, do things that you like, because ultimately you're not doing this for 3 months to look good when you're on the beach in Ibiza. You're doing it to help your mental health and to prove to yourself that you can implement these little strategies going forward for longevity. Like, there is no quick fix, and it's like people want. I guess it's probably like a society thing. Like, they want the results now, but they want to get there. They want to go from A to Z straight away, and it's like the realization that it's not like that. That's why people don't even bother starting, and it's just like you just wish that you could be able to be like, there'll come a point in time when you cannot go out because that your health problems will be that bad that you started. And it's like the worst feeling in the world is, or that worst question, what if? Like, just commit to it for a couple of months or a month and just see how better you actually feel within yourself. And it's like, it's not even about, obviously there's a plethora of health benefits you get from exercising, but it's the mental part. It's the fact that you've started on something, you've actioned upon it, and then you're doing it. And it's just that you get the dopamine rush from doing like exercise anyway, but it's also like that dopamine rush of like, I said I was going to do it, I fucking did it. And then like, and then it's just this internal competition that you have with yourself. I mean, like, I walked for 20 minutes like this week, I'm going to go for 25 minutes next week, and then like I'll go a little bit further, and I'll go a little bit further, and then that kind of mindset, you end up going into like that growth mindset where it then looks as in like, I'm going to want to implement something else now. So I'm going to want to read 10 pages of a book every day. And then, like, because you've done the exercise and that's become part of your routine, you're motivated enough and disciplined enough to incorporate something else. And it gets to that point where you look back in a year's time and you think like, why is it taking me so long to do it? Like, it's taken me like 30 years to realize how important it is just to do something and to keep at it. And like I said, it's just that it's just, I know it sounds a bit hypocritical. I know it's not that I get like a like a imposter syndrome sort of thing, but it's like I spent 10 years doing nothing with my life, but it's like I have made them changes, and I know how I'm actually living now. I'm not existing, and I'm actually like, I have self-worth, I have a purpose, and it's like, just to be able to implement these tiny little things, they make a massive difference. It's like, you think about it, it's like 20 minutes out of your day, it's not a lot. Like, and I think one of the things you said earlier about when, if you can spot like potential triggers coming on, it's about having that. I think escapism is a really big thing. Obviously there's a fine line between like escapism and then like what I did, running away from your problems. But I think to be able to take yourself out of that, like that dark thought pattern that you're in, or that dark place, and escape, whether that be through like reading a book, going for a walk with a dog, and you end up spending, I don't know, 20-30 minutes going out for a walk, and then you come back and you sit with that, like you're back into that feeling of whatever or that dark place. But because you've done something and you've escaped from that mindset, when you come back to it, it's like, I don't feel as bad as I did 20 minutes ago. And actually, like, the problem isn't as bad as I thought it was. Like, the thought of something is always worse than the actual thing itself. And it's like, if you can shift that mindset, and it's like, you when you try and tackle something, when you have a really bad outlook on it, you are literally like tripling your workload trying to see the wood through trees. It's like, but if you can take yourself out of that situation or out of that mindset, and then come back to it when you've done something positive, like, and you've got, if it is exercise, you've got vitamin D, so you've got like that feel good factor of being in the sun, like the walk as well. It kind of just, you're not going to completely eradicate those bad points, but it's like you end up coming at it from a different point of view that's far more positive. So it's like, okay, right, if I do this, or if I do that, or if I implement this going forward, like that, I'm going to deal with that. And then again, it's just this constant like cycle of being able to conquer like a bad moment, and then it's just it's like self-fulfilling. It's like, if I've done it once, I'll just do the same thing again when it happens again, and then it gets to the point where it's just like, I'm having a shit day. Well, that's fine. If I do this, it's going to go. or if I do this, it's going to go. And it's just like, it's just that putting stuff into action,
It is.
and having that.
Do you know what? Like for me, I'm pretty. What's the word? I'm pretty savvy with journaling. Yeah, I love journaling. I love having a structure. Because I never really had a structure previously, and being in control of life. And going back to earlier when I said about making the bed, that's the most important job of the day for me. It's making the bed, knowing that that's all nice and clean, ready, and it's such a psychological thing, isn't it? But having that journal process and knowing that I've got a structure for the day. So I only work 3 days a week. So I know for a fact Tuesdays and Thursdays, which is my days off, it's crucial I've got structure. So I've got like a routine. I know what I'm doing. So I've got, Thursday I'm doing that. I'm seeing Sean, or I'm taking Bernie, to a park or whatever. And I've always got something to do. And before, I really like that. And I lost myself. I lost myself in many ways because I didn't really have a focus. I didn't really have a structure. But when I had those baby steps of doing things one week and then increasing it the next week and giving myself a little bit of leeway, it becomes second nature. It becomes quite easy now. And it's not me being big-headed, but going for a 5K walk isn't a problem for me because I built it up. But also because obviously it's been a little bit restrictive with the dog because he's only a puppy. He's not really fit enough yet. But when he's old enough, he will increase that with me because it'd be an incentive. But it's having structure. It's just having some, structure in your life, having that guidance, knowing that you've got something to look forward to, even if it is mate for a pint, or even if it is doing a food shop. As long as you've got like that mental balance of keeping yourself busy, knowing that you've got like you said, a structure, but also something to look forward to is really, really important. And when I was going through the depression and when I was going through my mental health, I never had that. I never had anything to look forward to. I never had anything exciting, even if it's a weekend away or if it's, seeing friends. It's all about isolation for me, closing those curtains and having just any self-awareness. But now I swear by it, and, just going downstairs, making a coffee in the morning, sitting in the garden, looking at my journal, think, I've got that on today, or I've got that on tonight, and I think it's really good. And, it's old school, but it sometimes
it works.
It works.
Yeah. I think it's something you mentioned earlier about the ability to be on your own. I think that's I think that is something that you learn when you when you do it's like self-love. You are comfortable in your own skin. And I think something that you mentioned earlier about after obviously before I met my fiance, although I dated people, it was dating, it was awful, to be honest. So I spent like 3 and a bit years pretty much single. I'd go to dinner on my own. I went on holiday on my own. I used to go to the cinema on my own. And it's like my mates from football at the time, and like my mates from down south, and obviously majority of them are married with kids, and they'd be like, "That's really fucking weird, mate. Like, why are you going to the cinema on your own?" It's like, because I want to go and see the film. Like, you got no one to go with, and like I am comfortable enough being on my own, and I think that feeling of or the skill of self-awareness that you learn, I was like, it can be dangerous, like to be on your own and you're comfortable in your own skin. It can be hard to then let someone in, because you're used to doing things like on your own for yourself. You rely on yourself. You're comfortable with yourself. So like you've got your own routines, and with me it was like my own. I didn't realize that I had my own like OCD tendencies because no one was around to see it. So it was like, this is normal for me. Obviously it took like 3.5 years to meet my fiance, and obviously it was like you're always going to meet that one person that's going to just you want to share your life with. And obviously we're getting married literally 4 weeks on the 16th of June. So it's like 4 weeks. So it's like someone comes along and obviously like changes the ways that you see things, but it took so long for me to let her in. like it was almost like a self-sabotage thing that I was doing at the start of the relationship, because I was like, I'm not comfortable with letting someone in because I'm so used to doing it for myself. And it was like like she was amazing, and obviously it took a there was a lot of clashing at the start because you're trying to. She was like, "What? Why aren't you letting him in? Why have you got this wall built up?" And it's just like, you don't know what I've been through. I'm used to doing things on my own, and it's like, but obviously you reach the point whereby like you're used to doing it on your own, and then it's not that it's probably similar to you. Like it's not that you need anyone. It's just that there'll come a point when you want someone. Like, and there's a massive difference in that. Like I don't know if you have it within I have friends within in my circle that they can't not be in relationships. They have to be with someone. They have to be loved by someone. It's just like, and you don't just say, mate, just love yourself. But you can't say that because it's something that they need to. It's like a journey that they need to go through themselves. But it's almost like to me, you can't be with someone else until you can be with yourself. And I think like it, there may be better ways to do it, but obviously when you go through like your own like mental health battle, you learn that, and it is whether that's the like the skill set that you adopt or you learn, or like the reinforcement of you having that structure. Like structure is massive for me. Like I am a creature of habit, and you say about having like triggers and stuff, and one of the questions that I'm going to be doing at some point with like, this anonymous Q&A was like, what is my worst habit? And I sat with my fiance and we were talking about it, and it is still this thing with food. Like it's not in terms of like the eating sort of bit. It's like a tendency to, if we're going out for the day and like, oh, we'll just get food while we're out. No, I'll take food with me because then I know what I'm eating, and I still have that. I've been made more aware of it recently that I do it. We went to a wedding the other week, and it was just this like I didn't know what was on the menu, so I wanted to make a sandwich and take a sandwich with me and take food with me, just so I knew that I had something to eat if I didn't like what was on there. And it was almost like, actually, like that's not is that that's not healthy. That's not really a healthy thing. I still have this control element to me, and it's like it only really is around like the food. That it's almost like if I don't know what I'm having or I don't know what I'm doing, I still have this like tendency to almost have like a mini freak out. And it's like I need to be aware of like if we're going away somewhere, or like we're going away for a weekend away, is there somewhere nearby? We always look at local restaurants. Is there a restaurant nearby that I would actually pick something instead of just going, let's just go and we'll find somewhere. I need to know my surroundings. So I guess it's, again, that probably isn't like overly healthy, but it's probably, like you said, it's something that I'm aware of, and it's manageable. Like it doesn't like it's not like a destructive thing within my relationship with my fiance. It's just something that we recently become aware of, and it's almost like, like it's. I think you probably have your quirky ways, I guess, of how you just how you act. Obviously, it's what I've learned over time, and there's obviously something that when you are on your own, no one else challenges it really, because you're just almost like on autopilot. You do what you do because it's for you, by you. It's almost like when you bring someone else into the mix and they like pick out on things, it's like, oh, actually, like I hadn't realised I was doing that. Like I didn't realise I was so much of like no, I'll do that. I'll cook that. So it's almost like having to be like self-aware of it, and then trying to act upon it, and trying to loosen up a little bit is probably the easiest way. But like I think, like you said, that's why the question that one of the questions that I got asked was about like, can you ever fully recover? And it's like, I don't think that's a question that can be answered. To me, it's every day's you're learning something different, and you become aware of things within your routine or your habit or your personality that you go, I didn't realize I do that. Or they're just like this. I don't think you ever can be truly recovered. I think you just learn to cope better. And whether that is through like the various coping mechanisms, and you're having your escapisms and your coping mechanisms to deal with things when you're feeling bad.
Yeah.
That's probably the most honest answer that you can give to someone. That you put things in place that you just learn. You learn to react to things in better ways, to deal with things in better ways. But does that mean that you're recovered? I don't know. Yeah, it's a grey area.
Yeah, I get asked a lot actually, especially with talks. You know, do you get over depression? Do you get over mental health? And the answer to that, and I'll be honest, is no. But it's how I embrace it.
Yeah.
You know, my mental health is controllable. Like I was saying earlier, like when I get triggers, when I get moments where there could be a dip, there's prevention in place, and you know, there's tools in the locker rather than before. It'll be like brush it under the carpet or fighting against it without any awareness.
Yeah.
Now it's like I'll have realization. I'm like I will like schedule things in place to work with a potential trigger or a moment or whatever, and you know, that's the difference for me. And you know, it's just about being honest with yourself. Like I'm so completely honest with myself, and I know that anytime I could have a dip, and I know for a fact I'm not 100%. And I think as long as you've got that honesty with yourself and you know yourself, then you know it's all that matters. And before, I never knew myself. I never knew how I worked. I had confusion with my anger. I had confusion with how I was as a person, interacting in society, shutting myself away, not holding down relationships, you know, with women or friends. And you know, it got to a certain point where I had to just obtain professional help, and that was through the breakdown. It took to that point, but you know, like I said earlier, I'll never change any of what I've went through, but if there's any snippet of, oh, this could be a little bit of a bad day, then I'm like, right, let's get my rucksack packed, let's get a packed lunch, let's get a drink, let's get the dog in the car, and let's just get down to the beach or get down to the woods and get into a safe haven, turn my phone off and just have some self-care. And that was the case before. But, you know, I think it will be, for me personally, I'd be quite, not arrogant, but I would be in denial if I said that I was ever going to be over my mental health, for sure.
Yeah, I think it's. I think people that are almost like wanting to be on the cusp of that journey or that recovery journey or the step-by-step process, they want the answer. They want you to say yes. And obviously, I think it's whether you've got, like, I don't want to like blanket it with everyone, but the fitness industry is kind of full of like charlatans that will sell you that magic pill and sell you that magic cure for. To get rid of whatever. If you want to get a flat stomach, take this. If you want to drink this. I think obviously because of the journeys that you've been on, like independently, I think it does teach you integrity, honesty, and like I think because you can't bullshit a bullshitter. Obviously, like for so long you deny it with yourself, you deny it with your friends, you deny it with your family, that you haven't got a problem, and it's like you come up with all these ways, and it's like when someone's asking for your help or asking for your guidance, it's better that you are brutally honest with them and be like, this is going to be really fucking hard. It's probably going to be one of the hardest journeys you go on, because you are literally, if you've been in that mindset for so long, you are going against every fiber in your being, because you have let this thing take a hold of you for so long that you can't see what's right and wrong becomes murky. There's like this, and it's like it's going to be, you're going to question yourself like daily, but my God, is it worth it when you can come out the other side of it? And it's like you just, like you said, you feel without being religious, it's like Jesus coming back. It's almost like it's like Paul or James 2.0. It's almost like that was old me, like this is me now, like this is, and it's like the journey that you go on, it's hard, and like anything that's worth having, it's a ball ache to get to, and it's just obviously like, I think that's having that honesty with someone, so you're managing their expectation. You're almost letting them know from the get-go that it's going to take a lot of work, and the only way it's going to work is if you are open enough to to let someone else in that's going to help you, and you're open and honest enough with yourself to go, right, I'm going to let this person in because I've done this for so long and I've not got anywhere. I think that's obviously like that's kind of like the mindset. It seems like it's very much like a humble, like helping everyone, like the mental health community. I think because everyone's been on their own independent journey, but like the the positive side of it is that you just want to help other people. You just want to be able to, like, you're not going to be able to take their problems away, but you to teach them how to deal with it in a more positive way and a less destructive way for them personally. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I totally agree. And like with the clients that I work with, I'm really honest with my clients, and having that honesty builds relationships and it builds respect and trust. And you know, I was given bad advice when I was younger, and I was with associates, I was with people that used me, and because they sensed vulnerability with me, I
Yeah.
guess, and it sensed opportunity. But I know from being where I am now that I have boundaries in place. I don't take shit, and honesty is key. And not just with clients, but with friends, with you know, people in my environment, even with the lads down the pub or whatever. I'm always honest, and you know, I think having honesty is giving you naturally a clear conscience, and there's nothing to hide. If there's nothing to hide and there's a clear mind, then there's no need to sugarcoat or have a mask, you know. And with mental health and with the stigma and before social media, I was in a male dominated environment with my workplace that really didn't get mental health.
Yeah.
So I had to lie every day to myself, knowing that actually I'm going to pretend that I'm all right. And actually I'm not. But
Yeah.
the environment I was in and the situations that I was in, I had no choice but to sugarcoat and brush it under the carpet. So that in itself lives with me, and in a good way. And the fact that, hang on, I should be able to embrace and be myself and express myself without being somebody else. Because there's nothing worse in life than being somebody that you're not. And I've been in that position. And, you know, life's about fulfilling. It's about being you, and it's about being the best version of you. And, you know, yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's anything else to say on that. That's literally yeah, it is. It's like everything you try and instill within your journey to getting back on track. You learn to improve almost every aspect of your life, and that ultimately does end up with you trying to be like the best you can be, like the fittest you, the mentally strong as you can be, and yeah, physically, emotionally, spiritually, you're doing everything you can to be the best you. Like you never achieve it, because there's always room for improvement. Obviously, like if you have that, like you said, like that complete raw honesty with yourself, and you know that there's certain elements that you need to improve on, and then you're trying to action upon that. And I think, yeah, I think it's like I think it's important. I think to be able to have to be honest with someone, and then, or be honest with yourself, and then you can be honest with someone else, that they, like we said earlier on about when you're doing your talk, if you're being raw and open and vulnerable to people, they're going to be far more they're going to realize that you aren't like trying to sell them some bullshit. And it's like, yeah, it's setting the stall out early, being honest and open. It's like this is my journey. This is how I've recovered. Like, what do you do? What can we implement into your life? It's like that may not work for you, but let's try this as well. And it's like there's not a one size fits all right solution with people. I'm sure someone probably will try and sell it, but obviously we know that you won't. That isn't the answer. Obviously everything's on a person by person basis. But yeah, I think, yeah, just having that honesty, openness, and integrity with yourself and with other people is the key to be able to help yourself and help others going forward. So yeah,
I think especially when somebody, say in an audience, and you're speaking in an audience or a group or even one-to-one, that mental health struggles, again, if it's depression, anxiety, it's so universal. We can all relate to, if we've been through it or we go through it, we can relate and see the signs, and we be able to sort of have an inkling if somebody's being raw and actually real about it.
Yeah.
And that's what I with what I do is everything is just said from the heart, and there's no stats on the notice board. There's no slideshows or anything like that. I just say how it is, and that for me is how I like to work with it, because the people that I talk with are like, actually, I can relate to that. And it doesn't have to have buzzwords. It doesn't have to have statistics. It just has to be, real life from the heart stories.
Yeah.
And, and that's natural for me. And I think, if you are helping someone, if you are wanting to help somebody, you have to be yourself, because, someone's relying on you to be there, to be a friendly ear, or, important to have empathy, but show no judgment in it, and I always say to people, if you're struggling yourself, what would you want that person to be like with you? And, there's no different in it. And, we can all sense if somebody's being real, for sure, and somebody's being authentic, especially when it comes to mental health and, again, depression and anxiety,
Yeah. Yeah. I think exactly what you said in terms of having that lived shared experience. I think because you've been in that situation and you've seeked help from other people, so you've kind of like, you have almost gone like full circle, like in terms of like the person that is relying, or not relying on you, but is coming to you for advice. Like you have literally been in that position. It's obviously like, like the tools and the methods that people use to help you. It may not be that everything that they did helped you, but some things may have elevated you to another level, whereby you had this realization that you needed help in a specific area. And it's obviously it's just like a constant, you never just go from there to there. It's a constant, obviously, and you come back down and stuff. But I think, that lived shared experience. Like I knew my story was, my story obviously is raw, and it has a sense of power. But obviously, like I said, over the years of telling it, and it's kind of become a little bit dilute, like, to me. But obviously, since doing this, like July last year is obviously when I started doing everything, and it's just obviously hearing the importance of it. I think, and people just love being able to listen to someone that's been through the same shit that they're going through. And I think it's a big, like, whether it's inspiration or motivation, or it's just like this, you are seen as like this, like beacon of hope, that you are something that was, my dad says to me now, in terms of like, there wasn't, I think throughout the whole time of my eating disorder, like there was never another guy, and there was never oh, look, this guy up there, he's done it. Like, so if he's done it, like, you can do it. Like, if he's been at this point and been up, like, I'm trying to be that person for other guys that were maybe 16, 17, like when mine started. And it's just like, obviously, why the school thing is something that's incredibly close to my heart. I think in terms of like this, and especially in like today's society, obviously having a brief chat with some of the like year sevens yesterday. In terms of like, I couldn't tell you the last time. That was one of the biggest things I was probably nervous about, was the reference points of an 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old. Like, I didn't have a clue. So it's almost like adapting, because I think like yourself, like, you don't have a script that you talk. You're talking from your own experience. So it's just like, you just go with what you feel is right, and you kind of gauge from like your audience and stuff. But yeah, I think in terms of like today's society, like it's odd, because mental health support is better, but then it seems like the environment that kids are in, like, they're so quick to ridicule someone that is seen as different from someone. And it's like, someone was saying about, like, because the color of the eye, they had different color eyes to everyone in their class, they were ridiculed for that. And it was just like, what world do we live in, where you're so quick to ridicule someone because they have different eye color? I think, like, in terms of like how bad has like society got that you're going to like ridicule someone, like knowing for well all these stories are in the press in regards to like someone said something to someone that was struggling, and that, and like what you said to them was the breaking point, and it's like they do something like rash,
Yeah.
or you've tipped them over that point whereby they've been thinking about it for ages, but they never had the guts to do it. But you've said something to them that has like rocked them to the point where they see no other way out, and it's like it's something that could be so, it's so meaningless, like the color of someone's eyes, or like the because you hang around with a certain, like you're a girl and you hang around with more, you have more like boys in your circle of friends than girls, so you're a tomboy. It's just like, God Almighty, like it's all it's yeah, like you don't want to paint like a negative picture in regards to, but like you can't really see, like education has to be the key to be able to help like change people's like like mindset and their like how they ridicule people. Like they need to, people need to be educated in the fact that like what you say really can cut deep with someone, and someone that's going through stuff, and like they feel that that it's too like they're too weird, or they're not normal, or the black cloud or the black sheep, or they see them like all their friends are laughy jokey, and I feel sad, so I'm gonna lie, and I'm gonna have that fake smile, and like it's tearing them up inside because they feel that if they say something they're gonna get ridiculed even more, and it's just like what can what is the starting point to trying to change that? I think it's such a
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And words is, there's so much power in words, and like with like terminology and what we say sometimes, especially when like there's young people involved and they're growing up in blossoming in education and with puberty and stuff like that. I always remember the sticks and stones phrase.
yeah
Words do hurt. Words, I
yeah
don't care what anyone. Words, certain words can really hurt. And when I was told that, I used to hear it in school, in the playground when I was younger, and used to sing it, I thought, actually, it's actually not right.
yeah
Because the words that lives with me, actually. And it was only not long ago, I saw an old school friend, and he was a bit of a bully. I mean, I'm over it now, and we have a bit of we're over it. But he said something to me, and he called me a name, and it just made me shiver. It made me, oh shit, this was my inner child coming back a little bit. That's a bit.
yeah
And I'm like, actually, those words did hurt. So it's about like terminology of what we say to people, but like you're absolutely right. Having that education is so crucial, and where there's sex education, which is paramount, and obviously there in schools, mental health awareness, i.e. having these workshops about what we say to people, our fellow students, and
yeah
having having these conversations with our friends at school to say you're all right, and these sort of awareness techniques to be kind and show empathy and learn these emotions rather than the negative ones is really crucial.
yeah
I never had any of this at school. Yes, there was sex education, this, that, and the other. We had the firemen coming in and all that. But when it comes to like, dealing with emotions and knowing what to say and bullying and all these sort of credentials, it's like, hang on a minute. I wish I was told or advised and educated what was right and what was wrong to say.
yeah 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 I think it's very much so. I think but like going back what 2 or 3 generations, like that, the mental health stuff, or the what to say to people, that's for your parents to sort out. That ain't for the school, that's for the parents. And it's almost like, well, the parents are in the same mindset as the kids, because the parents would have been taught the exact same way that like if someone's different, you can almost like openly take the mick. Like if someone's different, you can ridicule them for that, and it kind of, you get this like social reward from your peers. Like if you say something funny about someone and everybody laughs, like you're the it person for that period of time, and it's almost like, yeah, you feel like you're being rewarded, but you're literally shitting on someone else for the sake of it. And it's almost like they don't, yeah, like I think education is the only way, but it's obviously about what can be put in place. And obviously you can end up, that could be a whole nother live in regards to like what things could be done, obviously with the way that like the world is at the minute. Obviously, like, there's like cost of living crisis, and there probably isn't the funds to be able to implement those sort of things in school. And it's almost like, where else can it be done? Yeah, I don't know. It's yeah, it's a really difficult situation. It's like I said, like my heart went out to like the people that I was speaking to yesterday. Thinking like, you're 11, like you shouldn't be, kids shouldn't have to be dealing with like stuff like this. Like, should, like they go home and they'd be sad, and they would, like, the way that sadness would turn into anger, and they would chuck things around in their rooms, and it was just like, God, like that's awful for someone so young. Like, it's bad enough for anyone, but obviously, like when you're that young, and you're still, like, your brain, it's still like molding into like the person it is. This, like, and if you grow up with those sort of being ridiculed, and that's only going to carry on in your life, and you're going to carry on with this, and in the nicest possible, like, I don't mean any bad, but you're gonna be like, you're gonna have this like desperate, like, worries me mindset, but rightfully so, because you've been like shit on your whole life, that you don't know any different, and that bad or negative image that you have of yourself is just going to be reinforced over your whole life. And there's like, it's not, you almost, like, by the time you hit your 20s or 30s, like, you've programmed that in your life for 20 years. Like, the chances of you being able to reprogram it is really difficult, because you're just going to be like, this is me. And it's almost like you're going to have that attitude, and it's almost like what you think you attract. And so you're going to end up probably having relationships with people that are probably going to shit on you. And it's almost like, it's just yeah, it's just like a sorry state of affairs, really. It's obviously just it's a difficult one to try and yeah, obviously it's not our job to try and implement like the change. We're just there for people that want to, that require help. But obviously, I think, like most things, how do you eradicate issues in society for people that are in their 20s and 30s? Well, you have to start young. You have to educate them about the implications of their actions, and like, words do hurt, and words will stick with you for years, and you end up coming up with this, you get like a stigma attached to it, and then society's trying to reduce the stigma and break the stigma, yet it's being reinforced at a really young age. So it's just yeah, it's a very difficult one to try and tackle at the end of the day. But obviously,
I remember, I mean, how old are you, James? You're younger?
35.
Right?
35.
Oh, okay, so
yeah,
growing up, and I was growing up, sort of not similar age, but in that bracket, I guess,
yeah.
where no social media when we were growing up. So I literally used to play in the park until the lights went out, the street light, and used to go home, you know, whatever. And I look at society today, and I look at the situation of social media, PlayStations, online gaming, accessibility to technology, and I'm like, I'm so glad, I am so relieved that I didn't have that when I was at school, because I don't think I would. I think I would have had more of a challenge to be where I am today. And I guess I look at, you know, with the talks I do, but with my friends, sort of teenage kids, and they're just in their rooms, even though the parents are like encouraging them to go out and play and do stuff. That is such a drain on the mental health in itself. Just have isolation in your bedroom and just PlayStations on your mobile. You're trying to escape school sometimes, but yet you've got these online chats, and you've got these groups and WhatsApp, and it's like it's like a 24-hour you know, access, really. And I always like say to my friends, like, when I meet up, and I'm like, do you agree with me that you wish that there was no social media when you was at school? And they were like, yeah. And you know what? It's true. I'm so glad there was not this accessibility. Are you?
Yeah, 100%. I say, like, it's not really like, I live on my phone these days. Obviously, it's for work and like an information resource as well. But I think, in terms of that, I think, like you said, like, if you are in this day and age, obviously it happens when we were. Well, I'm sure when we were kids as well, there was always kids that were picked on for being different. And I'm sure, like, it would have been like horrendous for them. But then imagine them going home and then that continuing. And I'm sure that's what it's like for kids these days. Like you said, like there is no escape. You think like back in our time, like you'd leave school and it's like, as much as you probably hated school, there was like a 12-hour gap where you could be with your mates, like you said, like out and about, like. And again, you're not aware of it as a kid, but obviously being out and running around, like you're fit, you're getting like sunlight, you're getting like social interaction, and obviously that's all going. And obviously, like you get demonized at school. You then, like as in today, you then come home and you go on your TikTok and you go on, like whether it's WhatsApp groups or some sort of thing that everyone from their school goes on, and they'll just continue like ridiculing you. It's just like, where's the escape there? Because it's like it's constantly reinforced in your life that you are this person that nobody likes, and you have no like positive affirmation with people, and any relationship you have is like just people trolling you. And it's like, yeah, there is no, when you're still young and you're like immature in the nicest possible way because you haven't got that life experience, like you hear all these like horrendous stories, and it's like, yeah, just like the social media is, it can be a power of good, but majority of the time it's a toxic environment. It's a very difficult one because obviously again it's like there's money involved in regards to like the social media companies. So are they really going to action upon things that are going to make them reduce their revenue streams? Like, of course they're not. Like, of course they're not. So again, it goes back to like education for the kids, maybe education for the parents or for the next generation of parents and people that can see how toxic it is. And it's not about not having social media, it's obviously about limiting access for kids up until, I don't know, like whether they're teenagers or they're 16, or a bit like smoking. You can't smoke till you're 16, or you can't go on social media until you're 16, or you can't go on this until you reach a certain point, and it has to be like regulated properly. Obviously, like I think you can't join TikTok until you're a certain age, but yeah, all these kids at these schools are on TikTok, and it's like, well, who's policing that? No one, ultimately. So yeah, it's obviously, yeah, it's a very difficult thing. Like you said, like escapism is really important, and having coping mechanisms in place are important. If you haven't got them and you have no escape, and especially as a kid, like you can't. Again, that's another thing in today's society. We could go out all day. We could go out all day and play literally until like the sun goes in. There's too many things that happen outside of the household these days that it's unsafe. Like, and like you need.
What really hit? Sorry to interrupt. What really hit me? I actually took a wander around where I used to live, and I kid you not, a lot's changed. There's not as much grassland now where I am and where we live. The two youth clubs have gone. The two local parks have gone. And I'm like, I was thinking to myself, like, just instantly, where do people hang out? Like, young people hang out? Because I couldn't think at the top of my head where young people would go. And it's a shame because, like the youth clubs was a godsend, an absolute godsend.
Yeah.
You used to go down there, have pool tournaments, play darts, play football indoors. But there's hardly any.
Yeah.
And like you see young people hanging around shops, and and I guess like they're sort of they're labelled straight away because they look like they're up to no good because they're hanging around shops and they got hoodies on and they're stereotyped. But in actual fact, they've probably got nowhere else to go because they may not want to be isolated in their rooms. They want to have that outdoor space, but yet there's nowhere else to go, and that's a real worry for me because back when I was growing up, there was a lot of football pitches, there was a lot of green land, but the access is not there as much now. I don't know what you, but for me, it feels like that.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think in terms of like you said, it's not really something you think about in regards to like when you see like kids hanging out, whether it's on like they congregate outside of a shop, and it's kind of, it'll probably be intimidating for, I don't know, for people that may lack self-confidence, or for the elderly, or you think that there's the possibility of like muggings going on, and I'm putting myself in a position where I don't feel comfortable, or else like you said, with these kids, like in reality, what they're doing is far more positive than being at home having virtual relationships with people. At least they're still interacting. But then, like you said, it then leads to, like, kids will always find a way of having like their own kind of fun, and if they have nowhere to go and to vent their all this energy, it usually will manifest itself in a way whereby there's like a criminal element involved in terms of like vandalism and stuff, and then it's just this self like this vicious cycle of like the kids get in trouble, but the kids are bored. They've got no outlet. They haven't got the space anymore because that park was sold to build a block of flats or for a building work. And again, it obviously goes back to money, and then you reach that point where it's like there's that balance between like the work life balance and obviously in terms of like a in the country as a whole, like there has to be a balance between like building and like recreational activities for people to go to. I think like it's not, again, that's not really something that is even thought about probably in regards to having an outlet for mental health. But it is like an outlet to be able to give people, like, whether it's like a safe haven or just a place where they can go to just vent and release all this energy that the kids have. If there is nowhere to do it, they're going to find a way to release it. And if there's nothing like constructive within their wherever they live in their area, they'll find a way. And obviously, it usually ends up with them doing stuff that's like antisocial. And it's like, then it's who's to blame? Is it the kids? Well, I guess to a point, because they've got themselves involved in it. But it's like, where else? What else can they do? Like, it goes back to a government thing or a local authority thing, or like, yeah, what can be done? It's just yeah, I think like the youth centres and obviously like there are some still available, but they're nowhere near in terms of the like. And I'm guessing they probably have limited numbers, and the numbers are probably like taken straight away. And again, that goes back to probably a staffing issue and a funding issue. So there's no quick fix on any of it. Obviously, it all goes back to education. They sound like, well, we should start our own political party. Mental health matters, whatever it is. So yeah, but no, I think you're right. I think there are so many things that could be improved to be able to help. Whether that's like make people less alienated, give them an outlet to not be at home, to not be on their phones. Like I said, it's like if there isn't anything, they're going to just find things to make up their time. So if they're not on their phones, they're probably on gaming. If they're not gaming, they're probably watching Netflix. And it's like, is that really helping them set themselves up in life in regards to having relationships, teaching themselves like self-worth? No, like they're not nurturing their mind. Also like the kind of things that we did, even if it's not something academic, just that social interaction and that sporting element. Obviously, my life was just football, and summer holidays were spent with my brother in a field playing football, playing basketball, playing tennis, playing cricket. And yeah, it may have only been like me and him, but we were occupying our time. Like we never really like spent time indoors. We only came indoors to have something to eat, to have something to drink, and then we buggered off again until it was like dinner time again. So yeah, obviously like we have lost that, and obviously that's a reflection in probably like the crime rates in terms of maybe the mental health, the decline in people's mental health, the decline in people's social interaction and whatnot. And obviously, I guess that was kind of reinforced during lockdown. People never had any outlet that they did have. It's like if I felt like crap, I'll go down the pub. Like, yeah, that may not be inherently healthy if you're drinking not like as often, but it's a social outlet for people, and it's obviously like that was their way of dealing with stuff. And obviously when that's taken away, they're stuck at home with their own thoughts with no way of being able to deal with it. Obviously that's why I guess the rate of declines got even worse since lockdown, because people had all these issues, all these worries, and they had nowhere to vent it anymore. And that's obviously what like the suicide rate's gone up, like gambling rate's gone up, and just like the mental health has gone in a massive like downward spiral. So like someone said to me today, like surely like why is Mental Health Awareness Week important? Shouldn't it be Mental Health Week like day all the time? It's like, yeah, you've got a point, but obviously like, it's no different to like Mother's Day, Father's Day. Like you all love your parents, but like it's on that one day where you celebrate it. Obviously this one is where for the week, like it's pushed even more, and then you try and continue it forward. And like I said, I've tried to do more things on my Instagram every day, and obviously it's coincided with these school talks, and the whole purpose of the Q&A was obviously just trying to strike while the iron's hot, and just whether it's people are at that level where they can it's on their social media feed all the time, and it makes them either seek help, like check in with someone, and obviously that's how you in a roundabout way that you start the ball rolling and you start that education process. Yeah, obviously that's like even just having these talks, like if it helped one person on this live, being able to check in with someone, and instead of it being like, what are we doing this weekend, like how are you, mate, like just being able to do that, it means that they've maybe taken on board something, or something that you've said or I've said has stuck with them, and it's like, oh, like that, like my mate like acts like it sounded like that the other day, so maybe he's not feeling all right, and like, you're right, pal, like that's important. Like you said, obviously that starts the pay it forward thing. Like they've checked in with a mate, and so they think, oh, I'll check in with someone, and that's how you will slowly make inroads into trying to reduce that stigma, and obviously get people talking, not just men. Obviously men probably need more of a push, and obviously that's why it's probably important that we're just ripping about things today, just to be able just to openly talk about stuff that probably some men will find like too challenging to do, but I'm not. I think like you said, when you've been on that journey, you're not ashamed. It hasn't defined who you are, and being able to talk about it is therapy within itself. And being able to talk to someone, and like yourself, that's coming at it from a lot of the things are probably like extremely relatable. Some of the habits and routines that we had were probably very similar in terms of like a destructive cycle, but like I'm learning it from a different point of view. Like you've got like mental health is the tree, and obviously all the branches are like your eating disorders, your depression, your anxiety, your PTSD. It's obviously like we're all part of the same thing. Obviously, like there are probably a lot of similarities, but just being able to hear your story is educational enough for me, let alone someone that like doesn't know your story. It's obviously, yeah, if it inspires someone, or it gets them to jump down that rabbit hole and research like their own mental health a little bit more, or to sit with their own feelings a little bit more, then that's brilliant. Obviously that's what we're trying to doing what we're doing. So yeah,
exactly that. It doesn't have to be the same condition. It's about the awareness of opening up and just normalizing that conversation, just talking about it. And if it's an eating disorder, if it's depression, if it's anxiety, PTSD, it's showing that it is okay to talk about it, and it's okay to ask for help, and talk about it freely. And that's what it's all about. And you don't have to go through the same condition as someone, but you can encourage a conversation about something else that they may be struggling to talk about, and that's what it's all about, Do we have any questions to answer?
Yeah, we did. I think we've probably actually covered some of them. Obviously, there was the one I wrote them down because obviously it's on my phone, so I didn't want to have to come off the phone. There was, do you think escapism works as a good technique? Obviously, we've already spoke about that. What was the catalyst to recovery? I think we've probably covered that. What do you think can be done to improve society's view on mental health? We've probably covered that in regards to like talking about like the school and education. This one here was have you ever been trolled or ridiculed for having an eating disorder? I guess obviously we can apply that to just a mental health issue. Don't think I could deal with that. Have you ever had any like trolls on like through like social media that try and like belittle you or ridicule?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I have had a bit of trolling. only recently, actually. And for me, it's just trying not to consume energy into reacting.
Yep.
It's believing in myself and on what I'm doing, and not giving that time of day for that person. So for me, it's about having boundaries in place, but sending that message to that person to say, look, what you're doing is not right. I hope I hope you do get some help, whatever it is that's causing you that problem. But
Yeah.
that message is needed to be said. But for me, I've learned not to react to people when it's negativity. It's hard because sometimes if you're doing a live video, if you're putting a post on your grid, you can probably see a comment. But I'm quite ruthless. I would just delete and move on, actually, rather
Yeah.
than energy into like analysing it and doubting myself. I'm in a position where I'm quite comfortable in my own skin and
Yeah.
believing in myself. And I don't know about you, James, but yeah, I'm quite ruthless, and I would tend to just try and not take it to heart.
Yeah. I think I don't think I could really put that any better. I think I view it in a way that if you're not within my circle and I don't know who you are, and you're trying to like belittle something that I'm trying to do or something that I have done, like I've dealt with all them feelings of like the like regret and the shame that I potentially brought on my family and the woe, but obviously like that's just feelings that I've had that weren't necessarily true, but I've dealt with them. So for someone to try and come into my life and upset the apple cart, like if I don't know you and you don't know me and you're spouting shit about me, then like it says more about you than it does about me. I think in terms of like if I knew you and I knew like the journey that you've been on, you knew the journey that I've been on, and you still said that I was doing stuff that was wrong, then I would have a conversation with that person and see what they're like, how they've come to that conclusion, or have I acted in a way to them, whether that be like subconsciously, I've offended them, then obviously I would speak to them about that. But I think someone that like a literal troll that doesn't know who you are, then to me, without sounding rude, like I don't value your opinion. Like your opinion means nothing to me. Like you haven't been on the journey that I've been on. You haven't learnt the things that I've been on, and for you to just sit there and behind a keyboard and try and like veer me off center, like I've learnt a lot about myself to know that like a comment from someone that I don't know and don't value, it's not gonna like rock me. I think that's like like a similar view to yourself. So yeah. I think another one was what is the hardest thing you found to deal with or learn when you started to change? So I'm guessing obviously on the start of your like the recovery journey when you started to implement things, what was the hardest thing?
Yeah, I think for me, it's because when I was in a position where I was stuck in a rut and there was no motivation to be out of that comfort zone and try and take that leap of faith in trying to change my ways was hard. And I was probably scared of change because I didn't really have that self-confidence. But I didn't rush things. I did everything in baby steps, and I did everything with ease, and I did it patiently. For me, it was about not trying to analyze the change and
Yeah,
going through the change, going through different lifestyle, changing my mindset and the environment I was in and adjusting. It's about doing that at my pace, but also to know that actually this leap of faith and stepping out of my comfort zone is for the right reasons. And it's trying to overcome the obstacles of being too comfortable and
yeah,
being being in this position of being stuck in a rut. And for me, it was about that. It was about trying to be with ease in myself,
yeah,
but making the process achievable rather than putting all my eggs in one basket and doing everything and taking on the world in one go. And I think
yeah,
some you can make a mistake doing that. So I guess that's my answer, really.
yeah. Yeah, I think again, like I mentioned it earlier, like I have like an obsessive personality. So when I do things and they become like a routine and then they become a habit, it's very hard for me to change that. I think that's why learning the ability of self-awareness, and it's obviously being able to, like, you once a habit's there, it's very hard to get rid of it. You have to try and adapt that habit into in a more positive way. So obviously I had my the hardest thing for me was to shift that habit. Like I was so attached to my routine, and it was my control, and it was my eating disorder. It was the thing that, it wasn't like my name's James Roffey. It was like I'm James with an eating disorder. So it was like the attachment that I gave it to me. It was part of me, and it was just this like I said, it was like Stockholm syndrome. It's like it was my comfort, because it was the only thing that I had. It was the only relationship that I had. So it was that that getting rid of that comfort. And like you said, I've used that analogy before about when you're working with someone, it's like you've got them on the edge of a bridge and you're asking them to jump, and every fiber in their body is like, no, like, I'm happy with my routine at the minute. It's almost like, but you need to change. It's like, yeah, but I'm happy with this. It's just like, you're at that, you have to take that leap of faith. And I think it was like it was the realization that I needed help. And it was also like, it sounds a bit like blasé. And obviously when people have asked me, like, what was the catalyst to change, and, like, to be honest with you, it was boredom. I think because I'd started to make those, like, slight adjustments, and like you said, like the baby steps, like I wasn't like, not that you can really like quantify the level of recovery, but I was better than I was, but I had a long road ahead of me still. But I think it was like them baby steps they kind of take that dark cloud that you had, that you thought was like your life, that you realize that there are better things, there are better things, and it kind of like you end up, you slowly gain that momentum, and you want to try and push it a little bit more, and try and incorporate something else that's positive, and then yeah, the wheels get put in motion. But I think it's that initial step, when you have had like the same routines and habits, whether whether they're positive or negative, like they're your habits, they're like ingrained within you. And for 10 years that was my way. So it was like to almost admit that what I was doing was wrong and destructive. I didn't want to do it. Like if I had to change the way that I was living, it was like it was like that self acceptance that what I'm doing is bad. And it was almost like this for so long. I was in denial, lying to myself. So yeah, it was just that. I think the hardest thing was that initial step of trying to change the routine and trying to change my life for the better. Like I said, like, it sounds easy because we've made that change and we're talking about it in like the past tense, but yeah, almost like when you look back and you put yourself back into that, I can just remember it was like this. I don't know if you felt the same, but it's like when you have that realization in yourself that you want to change, but you've not got a fucking clue how to do it, and it's like this. You're almost in like an even more vulnerable state than when you were like fixated on your problem, because you don't see it as a problem, but when you do, and that you realize it's bad, so it's like, you want to get rid of it, but you're so attached to it and you don't know how to go forward. It's just this horrible like feeling of like there is no, like you're just so confused. Yeah, so it's almost like and just to be able to you jump off the bridge, to be able to jump off that bridge, and then you realize however many months down the line that there is another life, there is a better life, there is a better way of living, there's a way of not just existing. You are like a productive member of society. Obviously, like, yeah, to be able to make that was the hardest thing, just to change the routine. So I think I think there's only one more. Does the woke cancel culture have a negative impact on people speaking out about their mental health? I don't know about you. I think it took me a while to actually understand what like the woke culture, and obviously like the cancel culture actually was. It was like one of them like buzzwords that I heard on like YouTube all the time, and obviously it gets like put up in the news. And I think in terms of like the woke culture, there's obviously to me there's more of a positive culture behind the woke, because obviously it's about trying to change like inequality and discrimination, and trying to almost like right wrongs that are currently in society. And obviously like I deem, again, I may be wrong, but like the cancel culture, it seems like that's far more of a toxic culture, whereby you can't have a debate with someone. You can't thrash out ideas. Like if your opinion is different to me, but I've got a bigger following than you, then I'll just get all my followers to troll you and shut you up. Like that to me, that's how I deem what the cancel culture is. It's almost like pardon my French, it's like a swinging dick competition. It's about like who's got the bigger following, who can inflict the most damage on you because your opinion is different to me. It couldn't just be that we're having a debate and your opinion is different. Like I love chatting with someone that's got a completely different outlook on me, and it's like you grow, you learn. It's like you may not agree, but you probably learned something about. I get your point of view. I understand where you're coming from. Like I don't accept it, but you're learning it from another side, and that's where you educate yourself, and you end up having like both sides of the story. Like you may stay like on this side, but if you can understand it, then again like and they can understand your point of view, but ultimately like you agree to disagree, but you learn and you educate yourself. Whereas obviously in my eyes the cancel culture is very much like your opinion is different to mine, like la 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 la, like you're this, you're that, like he does this, he does that, he doesn't see it like me. So I think in terms of like woke culture is obviously trying to change things that are necessarily wrong in society, whereas obviously like the cancel culture to me would have a very is far more toxic. So in terms of having and it can only have a negative impact on people wanting to speak up, because for me it opens up the door of being ridiculed for being different to other people. Again, whether that be that someone is generally trying to seek help, and someone it's like a school playground in a way. I think like in terms of like if you are strong enough to admit that you need help, someone will use that as a way of like deflecting. Like I've got problems, I'm not going to admit it, so I'm gonna take the piss out of this person, belittle them, make them feel worse to elevate me. I think like I think that's how in my eyes like the cancel culture can't be seen as a good thing.
Yeah,
So
I agree. Totally agree.
Yeah, so it's obviously that's quite a good thought provoking question. I'll probably need to do a bit more research into it. Obviously, it's only what I haven't researched it, so it's only what I hear on the news and what I've read on whatever's come up on YouTube. So yeah, I think the last one again is probably open to a debate, and I know that it divided a lot of my friends, was about how do you feel about COVID? So completely off topic on that one, really. So we'll chat that one at the end.
Yeah, it's an absolute can of worms, isn't it? Do you know what? COVID for me, I mean, I've looked at COVID, and I know COVID's been a real struggle for a lot of people in many ways. I get it. For me, it was an absolute positive. I nourished with it. I absolutely loved COVID in the sense of being locked down. I had a chance to look at revaluing life, doing my home education, doing a complete career change. In regards to how the government have done it, and obviously the politics behind it, that's another debate.
Yeah.
But how it's affected me and how I got on with COVID, it really benefited me. The whole situation of lockdown, and I actually benefited from it. But the politics side of it, it's just a can of worms.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way of it. It's like it's not like out of sight, out of mind, but it's out of my remit. Like it's one of those things. Like, do you have any control over it? Not really. So why give it like space in your head when you can't really? And it's not about one of the things that my vote doesn't count, but obviously like I can empathise with them to a point, because obviously it was a situation where we've never had to deal with any of that before. So it's not like there was a a rule book to go on, or a manuscript to follow, or they did this in whenever. Let's try and work on that. Like they were thinking on their feet, but obviously I'm sure with everything that came out afterwards, it could have been handled a lot better. Like personally, COVID was a bit of a interesting one for me. Obviously, I don't know if you will be aware of it, but I spent lockdown. I broke my leg 3 times in 8 months. I broke it my left leg in December 2019. I then broke my right leg in 4 places in February 2020. So just before lockdown, I basically was discharged from hospital just before we were locked down. And then my right leg, it re-broke again in September. So up until the third break, I actually found lockdown relatively easy, considering like the impact that it had on my life. Like I said, I'm very much a creature of habit, and I love to go to the gym. I love to play football. I love to be active. Like boredom was a killer for me. As it has been, it was something that obviously I'm very much aware of in regards to like my own recovery. So for that all to be taken away, it was a big head fuck, and it was kind of like this. What am I going to do? Like I can't keep fit how I normally keep fit, because my body isn't allowing me, and I can't go to gym because the gyms are shut. And I think a lot of what I did during lockdown was a distraction. Luckily I did buy a set of weights, and I did buy a bench. And up until the third break, I was trying to be like Mr. Motivator. I had a cast on my right leg, literally like from toe to bollock. So it was like a full on like cast. So it was just my leg was like fixated out, so I couldn't move it in any way. And but I still decided to do workouts, and again having my daily task where I had to do 500 press ups a day was what I was doing. I was like, my lower body's going to go to shit, but my upper body can stay the same. So obviously I broke it up into like it's like I was doing like 100 press ups like in the morning, 100 in the afternoon, and obviously to the point where I got up to like 500. And then at certain points, obviously the first part of lockdown was when the weather was lovely. It was like proper. You could have been on holiday. So against like hospital's advice, I was like Mr. Cripple around. I was going out and going around me where I used to live, and going around the park doing my hours out and about. Again, just as a way of in myself, I'm having that release. I'm not stuck at home. I can go out slowly, hobbly, but it was like again, I was still having my as much escapism as I could.
Yeah.
And then the other way of doing it, I end up playing Call of Duty. That was a massive. That literally like took up my time when I was at home. And as much as I know, obviously, we'd only just started dating my fiance, and it was just like whenever she rung me and checked in with me, I was always playing on the game, and it was like, why are you doing all that? It was like, and obviously, the realization was, it's like if I don't do that, I'm alone with my thoughts, and I'm alone with this feeling of like I can't go to the gym. I'm gonna put on weight. I'm gonna lose muscle, and I'm gonna come out like a shell, or and almost like all this work that I've done to sort myself out. I'm gonna with something out of my control. I'm gonna revert back to how I was. So again, it was obviously like, what can I do? So it was the daily exercise, like the press ups and the lifting of the weights, and the half an hour or the hour that I'll hold around and playing on the game. So it was almost like I still tried to have structure, and as much structure as I could possibly do. Like you said, like you can't. It wasn't until I broke my leg again in September, and obviously by that time, like the weather had gone, and I probably up until probably January was probably in terms of mentally, was the worst time probably since I got over my eating disorder. I was very much like a woe is me, like pity party. Like, not that I want to inflict it on anybody else, but it's almost like, you've already given me 2 leg breaks. Can you not just give me a break so I can get, pardon pun, to get back on my feet, and at least just like get my routine back. And it was obviously like it was, yeah, quite a dark place. Obviously, it was like I had my obviously my family were on the other end of the phone, and like my partner, she was basically my carer. Like she used to come like 3 times a week. Bearing in mind, like we lived an hour away from each other at the time. So again, that's how I knew that she was the one, for someone to invest all their time in me, and knowing full well that there was nothing in return apart from like my company, which probably after September was not really enjoyable for her. I wasn't enjoyable to be around. And I think obviously that's how I knew that, like, I, I can't let this person go. So yeah, it was almost like it was good and it was bad. I think what I learned about myself is that I can relent on the amount of exercise that I do,
Yeah.
and like I don't like change as much as I thought I do in my head. And again, it went back to learning the fact that your thoughts are always worse than reality. Like and I guess I say it to people that I learned a lot during lockdown, but I think it was more I was forced to learn, and it was like I was forced to learn at the realization of things aren't as bad as what I had in my head. So I know that I can take like days off, and if I'm feeling like if my body is aching, I won't punish myself by, oh, my body's aching, that means I'm gonna go even harder today, and my body shouldn't ache. And it was like this, like, who's that for? Who is that benefiting? Like punishing myself to the point where, did that cause the leg breaks in the first place? Who knows? I may have just got unlucky, but it was like this realization that I was clearly doing too much and putting my body under undue like stress for no reason. Obviously, I wasn't being paid to play football and whatnot. So yeah, so I learned a lot, and I learned a lot about. I say friends. I think the important aspect of one of my 7 pillars was about the relationship with your social circle. Like I learned a lot that people that I thought were friends weren't friends, and they were more leeches.
Yeah.
Like I valued their friendship, and then in like my hour of need, people were coming like cap in hand to me, asking me to help them out, like in monetary terms. And it was like, mate, I've not worked. I'm self-employed. I'm on statutory sick pay because I don't have the backing of a company. So I was on like, was it like 290 quid a month, and like my bills were like, my costs were like £1,100 a month. Like you do the math on that. If it wasn't for my parents, then like fuck knows where I would have been. And again, that was a bit of a demoralizing situation whereby at 32, 33, I had to go cap in hand to my parents and ask them to help me because I didn't have enough money to sort myself out. And obviously, like coming out of that, it was like I almost had to have this like chat with myself. Like this situation is out of your control. Like unless I had a shit ton of money saved up, like no one would have ever envisaged lockdown happening, and especially for the length of time that it did. So it was kind of like, again, this feeling of feeling. I didn't feel like a man. I didn't feel like I could support myself. But then it was like the internal speech that I had with myself, is in like, look at the situation. Could you have foreseen this coming? No. Could you do anything about it? No. Did you know that your body was going to break down when you were going into a lockdown as well? No. Then you just need to live with it. And then when you are able to go back to work and you're able-bodied, then obviously then you go about like making amends for it. So it's almost like that was kind of like a realization of like you can't ultimately worry about things that are out of your control. I think that was a big life lesson, I think. And again, like understanding the people that are in your circle. I use the analogy with clients that whatever your goal is in life, are the people in your social circle adding logs to the fire, or are they pissing on it? And I love that. I love that saying, and it's such a
Simple.
like, yeah, it is. And there's like the people, and again, like I understand it because I had to make that break with people that I valued very very close to me, and I valued them as close friends. But it's like when you when you do like a deep rooted analysis of what they bring to my life, I'm giving everything. If you're not meeting me, again, I'm not married and I don't have kids. Obviously, I'm getting married, but like some of them had kids and they were married. So like I understand that it's not going to be 50-50, but if it's just take, fuck off, do it someone else. Like I'm dealing with my own shit at the minute. Like I need people that are gonna come on, mate, like pull yourself, like not like pull yourself together, but like come on, mate, like you've got this, like you've been through worse, you've got over it, rather than can you lend me some money? Like, don't make me feel guilty. Like I've got enough shit going on in my own life that I feel like bad enough for. Like don't put your like worries onto me when I'm not in a position to even look after myself. Don't guilt trip me into that. Again, it was like it's a bad lesson to learn, but it's an important lesson to learn. And I kind of think like you end up having like my circle of friends is very small. But they're the people that I know that if I'm feeling like crap, I'll pop a message on our WhatsApp and they're on it like a shot. And like I'm there for them, they're there for me, and that's what you want. Like I know a lot of people, but in terms of like close circle, it's very small. And I think I find it a better way to do that. You don't want to have like millions of people that I think just to have a small like small set of friends that you know that they've got your back and you've got theirs. I think it's a better way to be. It's like ring fence certain friends and you leave other people that I know through the gym and the football or on like in the outer circle, so to speak. So yeah. But yeah, again, it's a bit of an off tangent question in regards to COVID, but again, it is life lessons. Like I know a lot of people did like sink or swim because it was the first time in their life that he said if they felt like crap, they would normally have their escape. They'd go out on a night out. Some of them would have like meaningless relationships with people. I think you know what I'm getting at. Take copious amounts of drink and drugs to mask how they're feeling. And obviously, but during lockdown, literally none of that happened. And for the first time, potentially in their lives, they had to sit with their feelings. And like you said, some people that have loved it and they learned a lot about themselves and they learned a lot about like survival techniques and implemented coping mechanisms and learned a lot, educated themselves because they had a lot of free time and they chose to have that like growth mindset that like I'm going to make the most of this. And obviously other people didn't. And obviously that's why some people still require like help getting over it and obviously making that transition back into normality when the lockdown lifted. Like social anxiety went through the roof. The amount of people that like reached out to me, and there was even like when I went back to football, like the first when I got the all clear and I went back to my first like training session. Like I'm a confident person, and I like what I like, and I like my routine. And it's like, but these people were my mates, and it's like I remember turning up to football training, and I just had this feeling of like, what do I say? Like I'm in a group of people, like I was in a group, there's like 15, 20 of us, and like I knew them all, they all knew me, and it was like, who talks first? I didn't know what to say, when to say it. It was like this, and I never ever felt like that before. But obviously that's the impact that being locked away for what over a year had on people. Like you lose that ability to interact with people, and it's almost like you were learning how to interact with people again that you already knew. It's like this like weird, like mixed up, like emotions. Like I know who you are, but I don't really know how to talk to you. Yeah. So again, it's just obviously that was a learning curve, and obviously a lot of people had that with going back into the workplace. A lot of people now work from home. So yeah, there's also like the repercussions of it, and we're what 2 years coming up to 2 years like after it. Like the repercussions are still a lot of people are still like feeling the effects of it. So, and again, the thing that we're kind of doing, talking about it and trying to get other people to talk about how they're feeling, and like again, a lot of problem shared is a problem halved. Like being able to take what's going on in here, project it to people, and it's out there. It's not all in here anymore. Like you're reducing the burden that you're carrying in your own head by being able to talk about it, and people can listen to you and they can relate to it, and then you don't feel that you're the only one. and you have this like, oh, it's not just me. Oh, I'm like, that's better. Like again, it's just that social interaction and that realization that you aren't the black sheep. It isn't just you. There are other people feeling it, and it's almost like other people feel it. Like almost like that worry isn't as deep anymore. And again, like that process will only happen by people talking about how they're feeling. So
yeah, totally agree, mate.
yeah.
I'm gonna have to call it, I think.
I know it's. I've just done a little check of the time. This is like the longest Instagram live ever.
This is the
So
longest I've ever done, and I've
I know,
enjoyed it.
by a long way, by a long way. I think everyone's gone to sleep. So yeah. But honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. Like I really appreciate you jumping
And
on.
it's great. I mean, people that may watch this later on in the week, you know, can
To
hopefully
break it up into chunks.
grasp and obtain something from this, because it's all about just having like-minded conversations, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly that. Like I said, we knew of each other for what the last like few months. So when I dropped you a message, but we've not chatted before. We've exchanged a couple of voice notes, but nothing for this period of time. So yeah, I think it's just like I said, it's just like we were basically like two people or two strangers chatting about like the stuff in their head. It's almost like if we can do it, then have a chat with your mates, have a check in with your mates, see what they're up to, see how they're feeling.
Yeah.
So yeah. So yeah, we'll leave it there. But obviously, we'll definitely do some more things going forward. It's been a pleasure.
Mate, been a pleasure. Let's do another one soon.
100%, 100%. Right. Enjoy the rest of the weekend, and I'll catch up with you soon.
Yeah. Take care, mate.
Cheers. See you later, guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.